let me tell you, it's a neighborhood for the rich people. So the high important class was living inside of the Tulum walls. I told you about that Tulum means actually wall. Did I mention that? Okay, Tulum word means wall in local language. Now, what was the original name of the place? They say it was Sama. As you can see, we are here on the ocean side, and Sama means dawn or sunrise. So looking at the sun and praising even the sun at the time was obviously super important. So these people would say the sunrise just coming every day, and they call it like that, sunrise, Sama, right? Okay. The Spaniards, the very first time they saw this place, guys, was actually in 1518. So like 25 years before they came to conquer, they saw it first, and they compared it to Sevilla in Spain. Pretty, completely full of colors. They say it was painted in blue and red coloring everywhere, and it was just amazing. They couldn't believe it. But they wouldn't cross the reef that is right here. We got the second largest coral reef of the world. You can see the first islands here on the top, right? So all these islands, there's a line of a coral reef there. So we actually have a 1,000 kilometers of reef. So that's the second largest after the Australian barrier. That's the greatest defensive system that you can have in the ocean. You don't need to place a wall in the ocean. That's why we only have 3 sites. So they place this little town, guys, or this little neighborhood inside by the cliff. So there's a cliff here, there's a cliff here, all the way to the other side, except this little bay. So the bay is for arriving of the canoes. So these canoes, they need to cross the reef too. And there's a way how to cross, but the Spaniards didn't know it. So that's why they didn't cross here in 1517. They just say hi from the distance, because literally they were just waving to each other. But that was it. And then they got to keep going. Eventually, probably they attacked with a lot of power, eventually, maybe 20, 25 years after. Okay? Now, let's go take a look here. And there's only this entrance, or another one on the other side. So you just make sure you defend that entrance. So arrows, spears, points of stones. Guys, here is a neighborhood. We got 2 different kinds of houses. The housing was mainly in 2 different ways. One was organic, and when I say organic, it's timber and palm. So everything was made out of a hut. So everything was like a little hut, little cabin made out of wood. So, and just the frame here, just the foundation was raised and level, and there you would place it. So many of these are actually around these 2, then you got much more in the other side. They're counting the thing, they believe there's about 300 to 400 people living inside of the walls. So just no woman. Now in the other hand, we got bigger and more solid houses like this. Usually these one would be made of a stone stucco and a semi solid roofing. And that's why the roofing having wood bars. You can see the little holes where the bars were actually crossing. So those were also, eventually rotten. Everything collapsed, so that's why we have no ceilings either. So houses were also sometimes made of palm and wood on the top, and maybe some cement, but eventually also broke. Now look, we got, for example, behind those pillars, we got a bed. Those little solid, looking like a bench. Okay, that's actually a bed. And let me tell you, by the way, there is, by the bigger one in the middle, there is these excavations. Many times inside of the floors or under the beds is where you find the tombs, the burials of your ancestors, or the ancestors, of these people. So this is a common thing, mainly because the respect of ancestry is like really important. It's actually one of the reasons why Day of the Dead was eventually a part of our culture the way it is. Because they would even bury their bodies of their fathers inside of the house, keeping part of the essence or part of the spirit of these people, and they believe that that little spirit part would guide them through life. So that's very common in these kind of places. Okay, so burials most of the time are inside of the houses. All right. Good. Let's move see a couple of buildings on the higher places of the city. For example, the house on the left probably was a house for one of the priests, especially the priest related to the rain. So it's right on the north, just like this north. They call it the wind temple, the one that's in front of us right there, little one on the in front. So this somehow is related to that farming, that rain season. So these priests would actually be in charge of the offerings, the sacrifice, right? As you know, part of the sacrifice was common to offer even blood of animals or even the captive that were taken on war. Okay, so human sacrifice was also very common in Mayan culture in general. Here's the city center. Okay, we're gonna go take a look. But what I want to mention is that most of the buildings that we got in this place, guys, are actually having the most important gods of this place would be called the descending gods. Okay, this descending god, it's in a position, but this position like diving like this, but upside down. So it's like coming down. That's why they call it like a descending god. Okay. Chocolate beans, chiles, guacamole, all that was made right there. Okay, so it's a cooking machine, little cooking like processor, food processor in a way, with another stone. So the story, the myth I was telling you, was basically the lady that rented the corn for helping the gods creating humans, made it in one of this. So there were somehow sometimes even ceremonial little spots. I mean, like pieces, important part of the religion, important part of the daily life, right? Of course, it's in making them be convinced that if they don't praise the gods, they'll be destroyed, just like the wooden people did. Remember I told you, first humanity destroyed itself just because it was too weak. But second humanity, because they didn't praise and they didn't pray and they didn't worship the gods, that's why they got destroyed. So this is in a way a method of controlling and manipulating. Because if you're telling these people, hey, if we don't work hard, we won't have rain season, not enough crops, and then we'll die. So it's important we work and we build and we got a war for the gods and we keep them in a way happy. So this is a method of just manipulation. Now, who's building the temples? Who's building these big palaces for the rulers? Well, the same local population, most of the time. Mayans are not known for having large amounts of slavery. So Mayans were actually especially a civilization that was built by its own people by controlling methods like religion through stories like this.
There's a lot of iguanas around here.